Good afternoon, guys. Okay, let me just make sure. Perfect. Yeah, so the talk that I'm going to be doing today is going to be a little bit less conventional than some of the past talks that you might have seen over the last few hours. I'm not really going to be talking about our technology or the things that we're building from a technical perspective. I want to talk about what I believe to be a more interesting topic for this event specifically. Of course, you can search on YouTube, and I think I've done like 30 podcasts about what we're building in our technology. And so people have heard enough about that. But I think, we launched our token roughly 6 months ago. And we've learned a lot in that time and also before then. So what I want to do for the next 15 minutes or so is just tell you what we've learned from launching our token. And most importantly, what I'm going to tell you is what I believe to be the number one most important factor in succeeding as a crypto project, and why I would consider 99.5% of post-TGE projects to lack this specific thing, and why I think most of them will end up failing. So this is what we're going to talk about. First thing I want to start with is something that I believe, and if you've TGE'd, then you know this to be true, is that the pre-TGE phase of a project lifecycle is by far the easiest segment of time. Post-TGE is significantly harder than pre-TGE. When you're pre-TGE, you can basically say and do whatever you want. You're going to get a lot of attention for it. You just raise a little bit of money. You create a Kaido like a Yapper leaderboard or something, and you start spewing some technical terms, and people will latch on to it and talk about you on Twitter. And it feels like when you're pre-TGE, regardless of if you're really building something significant or not, or if you're really solving a problem, when you're pre-TGE, you feel successful. It's a false sense of accomplishment for most pre-TGE projects because of the attention they receive and the fact that they have 300,000 Discord members and the fact that they're getting 1,000 likes on every tweet. This is not real traction, but it feels like it is. And so a lot of founders fall into the trap of feeling like they've already made it pre-TGE. And pre-TGE is, like I said, anybody can do it. You just have a decent idea, you raise a little bit of money, and you market it. And people in this space, because of the speculative value of you launching a token, will latch onto it. And so pre-TGE is the easiest part of the journey. Most projects do not survive long past TGE. And in fact, most importantly, they don't thrive past TGE. A number and a metric that I came across recently that was not surprising to me, but is a very shocking thing, is that only 0.05 to 1% of post-TGE projects make more than $1 million in annual revenue. $1 million in annual revenue is not that much money. This is like, if somebody told me they're making 1 million ARR, it's okay, it's a very small scale project, it's barely anything. But most post-TGE products don't even make close to this. Only a small fraction of projects with a token launched make over $1 million in annual revenue. This is an insane metric. It means that most people in this space never end up doing anything. They never make any money. They never end up having a successful business. So most tokens in the market are representing a company that is totally defunct. They have no product market fit. But it doesn't feel like that always. You can go on Twitter and you can see a project that, like I said, is getting 1,000 likes per tweet and might not feel like they're successful. But this revenue is the number one indicator of success. As we can see, is that most projects in the market that have already launched a token are not meeting the conditions of success if we use this arbitrary condition of 1 million in annual revenue as at least the bar. So there's this concept that I thought was fitting for this. It's this idea of the great filter. So astronomers have tried to answer this question of why have we not seen signs of life in the universe? Like, why have we not seen like a galactic empire or something? There's a lot of theories about this, but one of the theories that I think is relevant here is this idea of the great filter, which is that every civilization hits a point and multiple different filters that slowly narrows down the number of winners, right? Until essentially there's no people that there's no civilizations that can actually colonize the universe. And so that's the idea behind the great filter, is that there's always another filter that's narrowing down the population until essentially it's nobody. We can apply the same idea to crypto. There is, in my opinion, something as such as a great crypto filter. This starts with the idea stage. Anybody can generate an idea that's decent. It's not that hard. This is where thousands of projects start. They have a decent idea that sometimes is real, sometimes it's solving a real problem, sometimes it isn't, but at least they can get through that stage. And this is the most liberal filter. It's the easiest to get through. Then you have the attention. This is also not that hard. You raise a little bit of money. Like I said, you create a Kaido Yapper leaderboard or something. You pay a bunch of KOLs, and you can generate some attention. Even if your technology or you don't have a product, your tech isn't that great or whatever it may be, or people don't understand your tech, it doesn't matter because you can pay for the attention. It's not that hard. But some projects, they never get to the point where they can even raise money or get to the opportunity to generate attention. So that filter is a little bit more restrictive. The third filter is product. A lot of projects never build a product, or they build some Uniswap fork or something that isn't a genuine product. And so this is the third and significantly more restrictive filter than the attention stage. A lot of projects TGE before they have a product. and they never even build one. Whether it's because they willingly don't want to, they want to exit through their token, or if maybe they just can't, they don't have the competency to. The fourth, and by far most restrictive filter in the great crypto filter, is revenue. Very few projects generate real revenue in this space. The majority of them, assuming that they have a product that's okay, those products are not actually solving a significant problem. They don't actually have product market fit. And so, these projects, they get through the idea stage, they get through the attention stage, they launch a token, and they have a product, and they realize our product cannot generate revenue. So that's why only a small number of projects can actually get to the revenue stage. I think there's a big trap that you see with a lot of founders. I'm not a founder, but I've been able to witness many. Is that when you're pre-TGE, you have all this attention, you have this, like I said, this feeling of accomplishment. You launch a token, and that dopamine drops very quickly when reality sets in, that what you need to be successful is not artificial hype for a token, but it's a product that generates revenue. And the reality is that most projects in this space simply cannot deliver on this. And so reality sets in. And this is why you see a lot of these so slow spirals of death of tokens and of projects on the market, because they could never get themselves out of this hole of not making any money. So this is some math. The equation for a quiet death of a project is a token that was launched with no product, with no revenue, and they can never fix this. Whether it's a more fundamental problem because they chose the wrong problem to address as a project, or whether they just aren't capable of it, this is eventually what leads to the quiet death that you see in so many projects, and the majority of projects on the marketplace. This leads to a very simple property it took me, actually, I've been in this space for almost 6 years now. It took me some time to realize this. And this idea of revenue is king. If you walk into any college, first series business class and you tell them, hey guys, I just realized that revenue is a really important part of building a business, they would laugh at you and say that this is a ridiculous, of course, this is the most important part of building a business. But in crypto, this is actually not a very obvious statement to make. A lot of people, they don't prioritize revenue. They prioritize mindshare. And so also going back to this trap, post-TGE, a lot of founders, what they do is that they feel this need to chase the mind share that they had pre-TGE. And so they spend more money on KOLs, they spend more money on flashy events, and they just never stop the cycle until they eventually run out of money. And they end up with no product, no revenue. And so the only way that you can survive and thrive as a project long-term is by making money. And this seems like a very obvious statement, but this is the only true property of crypto. If you aren't making money, you are not successful. And there's exceptions to this, of course, some chains where it might not be as relevant. But in general, this is the number one rule of success in crypto. The line between those who survive and thrive long-term and those who do not will be revenue. Not only whether or not they make revenue in the first place, but how much revenue do they make? Are they profitable? Right? These are the most important questions to ask a project. It's not short-term token price. This can always be manipulated. It's not how much likes you have on your tweet, how many people are talking about you on Twitter. This can always be manipulated. These things are bought for the most part. But revenue cannot be bought. Revenue has to be earned through a product that actually solves a real problem and that either users or developers are willing to pay money for. And this is a rarity in this space. And so the line between those who survive and don't will be revenue. So I think that property is very true. I want to tie this into what we're doing at Particle and exactly how this has been a driving thesis of what we've been building. Like I said, I'm not going to go into all the details about our products and everything, but I'll give you some numbers. So this year, even pre-TGE, we decided that last year, we kind of came across this realization that we really need to focus on revenue because we thought, when we launch our token, what are we going to do? We can kind of continue burning rate or selling tokens or whatever, but is this really a good way to last as a product? And it's not. So you need to make money. And so we launched an application in December called Universal X. Very bluntly, when we launched the application, it wasn't very good. It uses our SDKs, so it had a great technological moat, but for users, they didn't really like it because we are not an application builder, we are an infrastructure builder. So it took us a long time. We spent all year this year basically iterating this application and taking feedback from users and building something that has now generated us a little bit over 8 million in revenue, which has come from a little bit over 800 million in volume through this application. We charge 1% on every transaction, so that it's quite a high price to pay for 800 million in volume. We're on track right now to hit closer to 1 billion in volume by the end of this year. But to be honest, this is not that much. It's okay. I'm glad that we've made $8 million this year or whatever, and we're profitable. We have a very small team. Our burn rate's very low. And that we're among this very small percentage of post-TGE products that actually make any significant amount of money. But still $8 million in ARR, Again, this is a relatively small number. It is actually not that significant, even especially when you look at the broader Web2 space. This is a small amount. So our goals are much more ambitious than this. And the formatting on this slide isn't very good, but the idea here is that in the next 12 months, we want to be making at least 100K a day in revenue from our application, Universal X. And we want to be making at least 20 to 30K a day in revenue from our SDKs. And this is not a very unrealistic goal. Like, a lot of people will stand up here and they're going to tell you, next year we're going to revolutionize every application in the blockchain industry. Come on, that's a ridiculous notion. I mean, that's a very ambitious thing. But I can tell you that these numbers are very realistic for us. We've been able to accumulate this revenue just over the past 12 months, and I really do believe that in the next 12 months we can hit these kind of numbers, which would yield around 45 million in ARR, which the slide is removed from me. But 45 million ARR is a lot better than 8 million, and that's every year improve a little bit until eventually I would like us to be a part of the top 15 most profitable businesses in the space, which is dominated by the likes of Axiom and Polymarket and Hyperliquid, these kind of guys. And so we're getting there slowly, and it takes time. It takes patience. There's the other problem with the crypto space that I've realized over the past six to 12 months is that most projects have no patience. You can't force a $1 billion company overnight. You can't force yourself to make $100 million in ARR overnight. It has to be done progressively and iteratively. If you try to force it in the short term, you'll never get anywhere. So the things that we have coming up this year is going to be Universal X Pro, which, if you guys haven't heard of Universal X, you can either look it up on Google or you can look it up on YouTube. I have a lot of talks about it. Universal X is basically a trading platform that we built on our SDKs. It's a competitor to Axiom, so it's for on-chain trading. That's much more efficient with multi-chain activity than other products. We're releasing Universal X Pro, which we've been working on for 7 months in the next 6 weeks, as a way for us to use a lot of the feedback that we've received from users over the past few months. Like I said, users were very clear that our product was not good in a lot of ways. And so we've improved it with a new version that we're hoping to release before the end of this year that will significantly improve it, and hopefully we're hoping we'll at least double the revenue from Universal X. The Universal SDK, again, I won't get into too many details, but it's our flagship developer product, which we're hoping to release in Q1 of 2026 as a major overhaul, consolidating all of our developer offerings. Now we have more products that are actually, particularly one product that's coming under the Particle umbrella very soon that we're very excited about, and that will also bring in more revenue to the Particle brand. So the core point of my talk and the things I wanted to focus on is something that I think a lot of projects will not really tell you. They're not going to stand up here and tell you this. But this is the key to winning and being successful in this space. It's that you need to make money, and that revenue is king. All right, that's it. Thanks, guys.